Our condolences go out, of course, to the entire family. And as we do at times like these, we always start off by saying thank you to everyone who's come today and who will be coming to comfort the family, because although we know it's our obligation to honor the memory of Kaye, which of course is really quite simple, it's also our obligation to comfort those in mourning, especially the immediate family. And I know that's what the people here and the people who are watching and will watch this later will be doing, as this community knows how to support its members. And we have so many wonderful people, and of course Kaye was such an important part. And so we thank you for all of your time and all the time you're going to give in the future. I have set God before me. God is at my side. I will not be moved. My soul is secure, because God does not abandon me to death or destruction. God's presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. And that is what we think of at this time when we think of Kaye. We think about all the incredible times she had in her life with her family, with her friends, all the wonderful things she did in this community, which are endless, as we know. The people she touched, which is also a list we could never have the time to write. It's at this time that we remembered that as we honor her memory, we are grieved in our darkened world. Even though we had her for a long time in terms of human years, we know it was not long enough. And so there's loneliness, there are tears. We ask God to be with us, but also to send friends and family to be with us during these days and the days to come. We're here to honor someone who is remarkable, and I think we all know that. It's not a secret by any stretch of the imagination. And we remember her love that united so many people in life, a life which we firmly believe continues on after this. We don't know exactly what the binds that tie us to the next world are, but we believe they are there. Remember her for her heart and mind, which both equally brought joy to so many people in this community in so many different ways, and I know her family will speak about some of them. So at times like these, we do take a moment to read from our Bible, as we're going to read Psalm 23. So if you do know it by heart, I'm going to invite you to recite it aloud. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And I read that so often for so many functions, funerals, but other times. But when you read it, that surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. For Kaye, as we know, that was certainly true. She had a lot of good days in her life, a lot of celebrations, a lot of things to be happy about, a lot of gifts to give. And so even though we are terribly saddened by our loss, we also are so thankful that we had her on this planet for all she did for so many of us, and especially her family. Protect us, Eternal One, for we seek refuge in you. There is no one but you. We are ever mindful of divine presence, who is always at our right hand. Our being is secure. And I'll read one more passage I think is very apropos, as we know, coming from Ecclesiastes. L'kol zman v'l'kol chefetz tachat hashamayim. For every experience there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born, but also a time to die. A time to plant, but a time to uproot what is planted. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to grieve and a time to dance. A time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to discard. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. And we know Kaye was very aware of when to do all of these things. We also know in our community we have a lot of people who've given their time and effort, and we've lost many of them the last years, and we thank them for all they did for us, what we saw and what we didn't. And Kaye was one of those giants, along with, of course, Don, who have done so much in so many ways, both with their caring nature and with the time and effort they gave. In the rising of the sun and when it's going down, we are going to remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year, but also when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she lives as well, for she is a part of us as we remember her. Amen. Now, of course, we all knew her from a variety of perspectives, friend, family member, but we're going to invite some people up to speak on her behalf. First, of course, we're going to invite up her wonderful son, Jeff, who has some words he'd like to share.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi. My mother was a huge Atlanta Falcons fan, and so she asked me to bring the phone with me so I could keep up. I'm kidding. I've got my notes on my phone. I don't want you to think I'm looking at my cell phone. Webster's defines indomitable as incapable of being subdued, unconquerable. The entry doesn't include an illustration of my mother, but it could. It was Mom's indomitability which compelled her to return to college post-marriage and with several young kids. It took her 8 years to obtain her BA with high honors from Armstrong State College, but she persisted and persevered as she did with everything she committed to. It was indomitability that later enabled Mom to obtain her genealogist certification and to author several well-regarded books on genealogy and Savannah Jewish history. Mom was also a one-woman band as the founder, chief cook, and bottle washer of the Savannah Jewish Archives. When a board was added, most of its deliberations consisted of Mom's reports on its many and varied activities, generally without the need for any additional action whatsoever on the part of the board members. As we all know, Mom was excessively organized. A more apt adjective might be obsessively. She's kept extensive notes on all of her and Dad's dinner parties, which included not only the names of all the guests, but of all the dishes served. God forbid the same guest was served chicken tetrazzini or chocolate mousse on 2 consecutive occasions. Several weeks ago, Mom asked me to contact the rabbi on her behalf. When I asked why, she replied that she wanted to schedule her funeral. I'm still not sure if she was referring to general arrangements or, given her personality, the actual date and time. Mom was, as my sister Debbie recently observed, the center of our family's moral universe. She had exceedingly high standards, which benefited us in innumerable ways, but were also sometimes hard, even impossible, for fun-loving 1970s children to meet. My close longtime friends and I have a related shtick. Whenever I screw up and do something uncontestably stupid, they jest that my mother must be very disappointed in me. Not that Mom didn't have a fun-loving side. There wasn't a parade or circus that she didn't want to join. When we were young, she took Debbie and I to drive-in horror movies that were sometimes questionably appropriate for our ages. And while I suspect this may cause raised eyebrows for some as they ponder this consummate, genteel Southern lady, Mom was second to none in the delight she derived when watching professional wrestling on TV. As we all know, Mom and Dad were consummate world travelers. I think Mom got the bug partly from her mother, the irrepressible Kaye Robinson, who wrote remarkable accounts about her and my grandfather Sam's adventures during the golden age of luxury ocean liners. For her part, Mom filed voluminous emails about her and Dad's cruise exploits, which were probably more detailed and specific than any captain's log. Mom reserved a special place in her heart for her grandchildren who she enjoyed doting on and taking on play dates. She loved exposing them to make-believe, the arts, and especially theater. This broadened their horizons and sense of possibilities, such that now the two are now engaged in the creative industry. In closing, I want to join Dad, Debbie, Leanne, Chuck, and our families in expressing heartfelt thanks to innumerable family, friends, and wonderful caretakers for their help over the last number of months. Your unstinting love and support made a difficult ordeal much more bearable. Dad, Debbie, and myself and our families loved and will continue to love Mom fiercely. She was a true force of nature who remained ever true to her standards and her conception of the good life.
Thank you, Jeff. And now, before I invite up Amy, I personally asked Jeff not to mention the score of the game, so nobody would be upset about the Falcon game. Okay. So I'm going to invite Amy to come up now. Sounds like it's a closer game than you would think.
Thank you. Hi, and thank you everyone who came here today. I know that it would make my grandmother so happy to see all of the support who showed up to rally today. It's a very odd experience to know when a family member is going to pass, because it colors all of the time that you have left with them, and it really makes you think about all the times that you had with them. And of course, you beat yourself up for all the times that you did not have with them. On my way from Florida to Savannah yesterday, I was trying to think of what I was going to say right now, and I lost it when I realized that I didn't know her favorite color, and I don't know why, but that just kind of broke me. And then I began to feel bad, like, oh, did I not know her well enough? But then I realized, no, I just knew her differently. I associate something with my grandmother every day, and I have for years, and it really kind of took me until these past few weeks to realize what that meant to me and what that meant for her memory. Not a day will go by where I don't see red lipstick and I don't think of her, because she always had on red lipstick, to the point where I thought she slept in red lipstick, which I do sometimes. Every time I eat egg salad, she used to always make egg salad when I'd come over for lunch with her and Grandpa. And Grandpa, you'd always cut me off a little piece of cheese to have with the egg salad. And like my dad said, she used to always take us to theater. My first experience ever with live theater was when she took me to see Winnie the Pooh on stage, and it blew my mind that that meant that there were people in costumes. I didn't even know how to process it. I loved my grandmother so much, and just like I have my beautiful associations with her throughout my day and throughout my week, I know that everyone else has their own, and I think it is so beautiful that we can experience someone so 3D like that in so many unique ways. And I know that something that made her so incredibly beautiful was that she managed to give all of us that glimpse of life in her own way. And I know that everyone here will carry that on, because it's too wonderful to remember someone through just the small little actions and objects that we encounter throughout the day. And I know that that's how I'm gonna carry my grandmother with me forever. Thank you.
Now we're going to invite Jeremy.
Again, also thank everybody for coming here. I know she would have loved to see everybody here. I have my thoughts written down here. I'm not like my dad, I'm not a sports fan. My grandmother was an artistic soul. Her love of written and spoken word, theater, and history carried on past generations and influenced and shaped the lives of the very family she made for the better. I remember being taken to the Savannah Theater with her as a child with my sister. Last time in town with her, we talked about what was going back up when Broadway reopened. And when she didn't know the new shows, she quipped, "We'll always have the Phantom of the Opera." Which is true, we always will. I don't think she realized what a character she was. I always joke with my family that she was something written by Tennessee Williams, but also something that Tennessee Williams would never have written. A warm Southern matriarch with her love firmly placed in her family. I truly cannot imagine Savannah without her. And in a way, I never have to, as her legacy lives on in the lives that she has touched. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking on our behalf. And as we know, when we think of Kaye, we think of her from a variety of variety of perspectives is what I'm saying. And we think of her as the wonderful, loving person who was the matriarch of this wonderful family. We also think of her as the person who did so much for her community in so many ways. And I think of both of them when I think of her, this very kind, seemingly genteel lady who was so knowledgeable and so supportive of everyone. And yet we also know she was also a dynamo, that she was probably the one who was in charge of keeping the rules in the house, which I would have guessed, and I'm pretty sure is the case. When I think of her, though, I also first think of her and Dawn. So I know for me, even though I came into this city a little bit later than a lot of other people, Dawn and her were inseparable in my eyes. And for those of you who don't know, they're married almost 67 years together for longer than that, which is a pretty incredible number. And the love and dedication they showed to each other is beyond anything I can imagine. Always there for each other, living their entire lives in Savannah because Kaye's mother wouldn't let them live anywhere else, I'm told. That was one of the conditions for the marriage. Going to plays in New York, traveling, setting up museums, working together, being one of the couples in this community in so many ways. They are inseparable. I still think, and I've heard the story now a couple times of the first time they met, and Don, you'll correct me if I get it wrong. Don was here with some of his army buddies, and they were on Tybee Beach, and they were setting up sandcastles with near beer. So I don't know if that's non-alcoholic beer or minor alcohol. 2%. So they're setting up sandcastles, and what does he see? He sees this beautiful woman who he is just stunned by. I'm sure he was even more stunned and excited when he found out she was Jewish. And from that point on, he made a case for being her husband. He met the family. They didn't stay together immediately. He had to go off to whatever fort he was going to, and she was going to college. So they communicated for a while together, and then came here, and history is history. A loving couple from the moment they met, as all meet on Tybee Beach, I think. So we're honored that they stayed in this community and did so much, and we know how much Kaye meant to Dawn and to the whole family. And if there's anybody she loved more than Dawn, I would say it's her children, but obviously it's her grandchildren, as we know. And she was, even though the strict mom, also the doting mom, the one who would have fun with you. And I think Jeff told me a really wonderful story of combining both worlds, as a librarian and as a genealogist. And I thought this was a beautiful story when she had Jeff dictate a story to her when he was a little kid, and she wrote it, and then he drew the pictures, and then she bound it and took him to the library and had the librarian put it in the shelves to make it look like he was an author. And that, I think, is a very creative thing that I'll be doing for my kids. But one of the things also we remember about Kaye is the love she had for her family and the connection. And she was very, very fortunate. I know she knew it, and everybody knows, to have her grandkids in the city. And they were telling me a story as she was lying in bed, and she had been ill the last couple of months, and of course bedridden. What did she invite you to do? I was told she invited you to read the stories to her that she had read to you when you were children. And I don't know if you can find anything more profound than that in a life. We're here to honor someone who did exactly what she was supposed to do on this earth. She put her family first. She made sure that she did everything she could for them. And then she did everything next for her community, the Jewish community and the outside community, whether it was with the Savannah Jewish Archives or with the library system or with the unbelievably, I am sure, unknown amount of things that she did that we may never find ourselves. She was someone who dedicated herself to this world, and we believe she did it in the best way possible. She was honest, dedicated, kind, strict at times, but someone who really loved everybody, and she is going to be terribly missed. And again, our condolences go out to the entire family, and I know the community here will be here for them, as she was always for them as well. So I'm going to invite everyone now to rise, if you don't mind, for those of you who are able, as we're going to take a moment to say El Malei Rachamim. This is the prayer for someone who has died recently. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Chabsam Mincha, Nichonotacha Kanfei Ashchincha, Im Keroshim, Utorim, Kezor Kiyamas Rimet Nishmat, Kekol Shalacha Lama, Bal HaRachamim, Yesti Reha Beseder Kanafav Laumim, Vaitzor Bitzor Chachaim Et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachlata, V'tanuach B'Shalom Amish Kavav, and no more. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Kaye, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace as we say Amen. I invite everyone now to be seated. There will be those who are watching this funeral later today as it's being recorded. So for those of you who are not Jewish and this is your first experience with a Jewish funeral, it is our tradition to lower the casket during the funeral itself as we say our final goodbyes. We praise you, God, ruler of the universe, who forms us in the divine image, who nourishes and sustains us in your goodness, and even though we die, causes us to have immortal life. We praise you, God, who implants immortal life within us. Amen. May Kaye come to her eternal home. Amen. Early or late, we all must answer the summons to return to the source of being. Let us be thankful, even though it is difficult, for the companionship that continues in a love stronger than death. Sanctifying the name of God, we honor the memory of Kaye. As I'm going to invite everyone who would like to please rise for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon uv'yomechon uv'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala ubizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'olam olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudusha b'rechu. Leila min kol berchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Damiram b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Hosei shalom b'mrumav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort the bereaved among us. Amen. Please be seated. We conclude with go your way, for God has called you. Go your way, and may God be with you. May your righteousness go before you, and the glory of God receive you, Kaye. May God console you with all who mourn in Zion and Jerusalem. Go forth now, peace to life. Amen. Again, our condolences to the family. We know we lost a tremendous individual, a wonderful wife, mother, grandmother, sister, someone truly dedicated and someone we all loved. So our condolences continue to be with all of you. And for those of you who may not be used to a Jewish funeral, we conclude the funeral by placing dirt on the casket. We first invite the immediate family and then the rest of the family and then friends to do the same. Immediately following this service, from 3:30 to 5:30 at Monterey Square, Don and the family will be visiting with anyone who would like to stop by. At 6 p.m. today on the Mikveh Israel YouTube page and on the YouTube page for Gamble, there will be the recording of this funeral for those who would like to invite others to watch it. Again, all of our best to all of you. And what we're going to do is we're going to first invite the immediate family to come on up, and then the rest of the family. I don't know if you want dirt from Israel.
Go ahead. If anybody else would like to place it, I'll invite you up.